Butterfly Effect of Time Travel. Part 2. Note: this story contains mature themes and violence. Listener's discretion is advised. Over the next few days, Rachel couldn't shake the feeling that something was still off. She found herself constantly looking over her shoulder, wondering if the doppelganger she had seen outside her apartment was a sign of something even more ominous. Then, one day, Rachel received a package in the mail. It was a small box, wrapped in brown paper with no return address. She opened it cautiously, and inside, she found a note. "I'm sorry," it read. "I thought I was doing the right thing." Rachel's heart sank as she realized who the note was from. It was from Dr. Kim. She pulled out the object from the box, and her eyes widened in shock. It was the device he had used to undo the butterfly effect. Rachel felt a sense of anger and betrayal wash over her. How could Dr. Kim have gone behind her back and undone everything they had worked so hard to achieve? She decided to confront him, and drove to his lab. When she arrived, the door was locked. Rachel banged on the door, yelling for Dr. Kim to come out. But there was no answer. As she stood there, feeling frustrated and confused, Rachel noticed a strange smell coming from the lab. She hesitated for a moment, but then decided to investigate. She found a way to break into the lab, and as she entered, she was hit with the overwhelming stench of death. Rachel's heart raced as she realized that something was seriously wrong. She moved cautiously through the lab, searching for any sign of Dr. Kim. It wasn't long before she stumbled upon a gruesome sight. Dr. Kim was lying on the floor, his body mutilated and disfigured beyond recognition. Rachel felt a wave of horror wash over her as she realized that someone had killed Dr. Kim. She knew that she was in grave danger, and that she needed to get out of the lab as quickly as possible. But just as she turned to leave, she heard a sound behind her. Rachel spun around, and found herself face to face with a figure that made her blood run cold. It was her own doppelganger, staring at her with cold, dead eyes. Rachel was frozen in fear, unsure of what to do. But then, she remembered the device in her pocket. She pulled it out and activated it, hoping that it would take her away from this nightmare. The last thing Rachel remembered was the sound of the device whirring to life, and then everything went black. When Rachel woke up, she found herself lying in a hospital bed. She had no memory of what had happened after activating the device, but she knew that something terrible had occurred. It wasn't until the police arrived that Rachel learned the truth. The murder of Dr. Kim had been committed by someone who had traveled back in time to undo the butterfly effect. And that person had been Rachel herself. The revelation hit Rachel like a ton of bricks. She had been the one who had gone back in time and changed everything, leading to the death of Lily Evans and the subsequent murder of Dr. Kim. Rachel was left reeling, wondering how she could have become so callous and cruel. She knew that she could never undo the damage that had been done, and that she would have to live with the consequences of her actions for the rest of her life. As Rachel sat alone in her hospital room, she couldn't help but wonder what would have happened if she had never gone back in time in the first place. Maybe none of this would have ever happened. Maybe she wouldn't be sitting here, alone and haunted. Rachel knew that she could never know for sure what might have been, but she also knew that she couldn't dwell on it forever. She had to face the reality of what had happened and try to make amends as best she could. Rachel was eventually released from the hospital, but she couldn't bring herself to return to her old life. She left town and started a new life in a different city, trying to put the past behind her. But the memories of what had happened continued to haunt her, and she found it difficult to move on. She started seeing a therapist, hoping to work through her guilt and find some sense of closure. One day, Rachel received a letter in the mail. It was from Lily Evans' family, thanking her for bringing justice to their daughter's killer. They wrote that they knew Rachel had played a pivotal role in solving the case, and that they appreciated everything she had done to help. Rachel felt a sense of relief and gratitude wash over her. She realized that even though she couldn't undo the damage that had been done, she could still try to make a positive impact in the world. And so, Rachel decided to dedicate her life to helping others. She became a social worker, working with children who had experienced trauma and abuse. She knew that she couldn't undo the pain and suffering they had experienced, but she could still try to make their lives a little bit better. As the years went by, Rachel found that she was able to find some measure of peace. She knew that she would always carry the weight of what had happened with her, but she also knew that she could use her experiences to help others. And then, one day, Rachel received a call from an old colleague. He told her that he had made a breakthrough in the field of time travel, and that he had a new device that he believed could undo the damage that had been done. Rachel was skeptical at first, but she decided to hear him out. As he explained the details of the new device, Rachel felt a sense of hope rise within her. Maybe she could use this device to undo the damage she had done, to make things right. And so, Rachel made the decision to travel back in time once again. This time, she would do things differently. This time, she would make sure that Lily Evans survived. Rachel activated the device, and the world around her began to fade away. She felt a sense of weightlessness as she traveled back through time, and then suddenly, she found herself standing in the park where Lily Evans had been attacked. Rachel looked around, searching for any sign of her past self. But she didn't see anyone. She realized that she had arrived a few minutes early, and that she would have to wait for her past self to arrive. As she waited, Rachel felt a sense of calm wash over her. She knew that she had a second chance to make things right, and that she wouldn't waste it. Finally, Rachel saw her past self approaching. She watched as her past self passed by Lily Evans without incident, and she knew that she had succeeded. Rachel breathed a sigh of relief, feeling a weight lifted off her shoulders. She knew that the timeline had been altered, and that Lily Evans would now live a full and happy life. As Rachel prepared to travel back to her own time, she realized that she had one more task to complete. She decided to leave a note for her past self, explaining what had happened and urging her to be vigilant. Rachel wrote the note quickly, knowing that she had only a few moments before the timeline would be altered again. She left the note on a nearby bench and activated the device, returning to her own time. When Rachel arrived back in her own time, she felt a sense of relief wash over her. She knew that she had done the right thing, and that she had finally found closure. But then, something strange began to happen. Rachel started experiencing strange déjà vu moments, as if she was reliving moments from her past. And then, she began to notice small differences in the world around her. Things that she remembered being one way were now different. Rachel realized with a sense of dread that she had inadvertently caused a butterfly effect by altering the timeline. By saving Lily Evans, she had set into motion a series of events that had led to a different outcome than what she had expected. As Rachel tried to come to terms with this new reality, she began to notice that there was something off about her own memories. She started to feel as if she wasn't the same person that she had been before she traveled back in time. And then, Rachel saw her own doppelganger walking down the street. Rachel was stunned. She had never believed in the concept of doppelgangers before, but now, here was one walking towards her. The doppelganger looked exactly like Rachel, but with one key difference. She had a small scar on her forehead, which Rachel didn't have. Rachel felt a sense of unease wash over her. Was this doppelganger the result of the butterfly effect? Had she inadvertently created a copy of herself by altering the timeline? As the doppelganger approached her, Rachel realized that she had to act fast. She couldn't let anyone else know about the device, or the butterfly effect that she had created. Rachel quickly made her way down a side street, hoping to avoid her doppelganger. But as she turned the corner, she saw her again, standing in front of her. The doppelganger looked at Rachel with an expression of confusion and fear. "Who are you?" she asked. Rachel knew that she had to think fast. She couldn't reveal her true identity, but she also couldn't let the doppelganger run wild, causing chaos in the world. "I'm your long-lost twin," Rachel said, hoping that the lie would be enough to convince the doppelganger. The doppelganger looked at Rachel skeptically, but Rachel could see that she was starting to believe the lie. Rachel quickly explained that they had been separated at birth, and that she had only recently discovered the truth about her twin. She urged the doppelganger to keep their connection a secret, for fear of causing a scandal. To Rachel's relief, the doppelganger seemed to buy the story. She agreed to keep their connection a secret, and even seemed grateful to have discovered a long-lost family member. Rachel breathed a sigh of relief as she walked away from the doppelganger. She knew that she had narrowly avoided disaster, but she also knew that she couldn't let her guard down. The butterfly effect was a powerful force, and she had to be careful not to set it in motion again. And so, Rachel continued on with her life, always keeping a watchful eye out for any signs of the butterfly effect. She never forgot the lessons that she had learned, and she never stopped striving to make a positive impact in the world. In the end, Rachel realized that sometimes, the best way to change the world was to change yourself. She had learned that even the smallest actions could have a ripple effect, and that it was up to each of us to make sure that those ripples were positive ones. And as she looked back on her life, Rachel knew that she had made mistakes, but she also knew that she had done everything she could to make amends. And that was enough for her. Thank you for tuning in. Please support me by hitting the like button and subscribing to my channel. See you guys on the next video.